Welcome to the Insurance Guy Podcast. From sales to insurance advice, we discuss ways to protect your business and grow it. Make sure to like and share this podcast. And don't forget to check us out at theinsurers.ca for all your business insurance needs. And here's your host, Mr. Aun.
Hey, Facebook family. Today I got an exciting guest with me, a specialist in real estate. I got Mr. Nabeel Naqvi with me today. Mr. Nabeel, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. Awesome.
So, I thought it might be really good for everybody to to see this, especially because we're going to be touching bases on real estate law and the importance of insurance. And if you know anybody who is in the industry or who's going to be purchasing a new home or is in the process or looking, and it's their first time buying a home, make sure to share this clip with them so that this way they can see it, because I'm pretty sure they're going to find this really useful. And if you have any questions or anything of the sort, just comment below and we'll make sure to get you the answers for that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. So, Nabeel, the common misconception with lawyers is that, you're paying them a couple $100,000 during the time of when you're buying a home, and all they're really doing is they're just signing off on the paper and saying, okay, here you go. But is that the case?
You know what? For some lawyers, actually, it might be. But a good lawyer, a good real estate lawyer, the main thing that they do for their clients when they're buying a property is the certifying good and marketable title, so that when you do go to sell that property later on, that you can sell that property. So the first thing we do is search title. We make sure that the person who sold you the property is the actual owner of the property, so that the deal can actually be completed. And then the other thing we look for is, are there any liens, construction liens, encumbrances, or charges that would prevent you from transferring that property into your name. So I make sure that there's nothing wrong with title and make sure that you can actually own the property that you agreed to purchase.
Awesome. So in other words, if as a buyer, it's protecting me when I'm paying tons of money to buy a property, and make sure that the person who's selling the property, it actually belongs to them, or they have the authorization to sell the property, and they're not just forging signatures or anything of the sort, or they're giving you the property with liens on it, and you're taking on the property with the liens on it. It's protecting you as a buyer as well as smoothing out the process for the realtors as well.
That's right, exactly. And also, we get involved in any type of negotiations that need to happen. Let's say after you sign the agreement, before the deal is actually closed, if any issues come up, we as lawyers get involved to make sure that those issues are rectified.
Right. So you guys want to make sure that the deal is going as smooth as possible, less headaches for everybody. The realtors are happy because they're getting their sale going through, and you guys are ensuring that it's compliant with the legal necessities to make sure that they're not breaking any rules or anything of the sort.
That's right.
And to keep the process smooth.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. So now, we've known each other for about a year and a half, and we've done quite a few deals together for mutual clients and stuff like that, which is awesome. And the one thing that I love about what you do is that you'll contact me at least a week in advance prior to a closing of a property, and you'll request the insurance documents well in advance, so it gives me time as well to have things ready and make sure the process is smooth sailing. As an insurance broker, let me ask you from a legal perspective, why is insurance important?
Right. So insurance is important for two reasons. Number one, you as a purchaser would like to protect your investment, as we were discussing off the record, your biggest investment that you'll probably make in your life. So in the event of a natural disaster or a fire, and let's say your property is damaged, you want to be able to ensure that you'll be able to get back the money that you put into that property. The second reason is that usually as a lawyer, when I'm acting on a purchase of a transaction, I also represent your lender. So in most cases, the big banks, RBC, CIBC, TD, etc. And these banks, because I'm their lawyer as well, require me to make sure that you as a buyer have insurance in place before the deal actually closes. Again, to make sure that in the event of a fire or a natural disaster, if that house burns down to the ground, the lender wants to make sure that they can get the money that they gave you back.
Right. So it's protecting the lender's interest. But from an insurance broker's perspective, my recommendation is to always make sure, even if you don't have a mortgage, you don't technically need an insurance.
That's right.
The mortgage, the homeowners can say, listen, we're buying this home right cash. We don't want to buy insurance for the property. However, knock on wood, if things do happen, your house gets burnt or vandalized or victim of theft or anything of the sort,
right,
you want to be protected. Would you, like, considering how expensive homes are these days, you wouldn't want to try to save a couple $100 or in not getting insurance. You want to make sure that you're protected and your family's protected in case you have a loss. And insurance goes well beyond just protecting you for your property. It's also protecting you for your contents. It's protecting you for your additional living expenses. In case of the loss, if you have to live in a hotel or anything of the sort, while repairs are being done to your property. So insurance is important in those aspects. And as you heard it from Nabeel, that these things, why it's important from a legal perspective as well, because if you have a mortgage, if you have a mortgage, the mortgage companies require it.
They require it. Well, one other point I'd add is, as you mentioned, the contents insurance. So for when you're buying a condo, even if you have a mortgage, it's actually not a requirement in most cases to get contents liability insurance. But I always recommend to my clients that to make sure that they get that insurance as well, because you never, like, I've had a case where there's been a leak in a condo apartment above my client's condo apartment, and that water leakage actually, although it didn't cause any damage to the unit necessarily, it ended up damaging some of her contents because she had no coverage at that time. She was she had no.
She was unfortunately out of luck. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it happens, and that's amazing. So you're telling me that if you're buying a condo, you have a mortgage company, one of the banks or whatever the case is these days. They can't demand you.
No, they just want to make sure
insurance.
The entire building structure as a structure is insured. So if that building burns down, they get paid, but they could care less about what you have in there, and they're not covering that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's good. See, this is why I like to do these interviews, because of these details coming out, and I learn a thing or two as well, and I hope you guys do in this field as well. Now, tell me something. When you're buying a resale home and buying a new buying a property from a new new development property, new builder. Do you need a lawyer for a new build property?
Right, that's a great question. So as I was mentioning to you, in most cases I usually see those agreements that you purchasers sign with new builders a month or two before the actual closing date or completion date. Obviously, by that time, that agreement is, quote unquote, set in stone, and no changes can be made to this agreement. But in Ontario and in other provinces, consumers have protection of what's called a 10-day cooling off period. So what I recommend to everyone is, within that 10-day cooling off period, have your agreement reviewed by a lawyer. There isn't much that can be done, but the main thing that we can do is at least send a letter asking the builder to cap the adjustments. Adjustments can take your what you thought the purchase price would be on closing and add an extra $15,000, in some cases $20,000 more in terms of levies and taxes and charges that they add on to the agreement. So what we can at least do is ask the builder to cap these charges, so that adds some value. But just ensure that the agreement is reviewed 10 days before closing, because, as we mentioned off the record, these agreements are built and structured highly in favor of the builders.
Exactly. So what is a cooling off period?
Right. Cooling off period is means that although both parties have agreed to the contract and they've agreed to the terms of the contract, because there are so much legal language and there's so much at stake, and there's so much money involved, the government has required a cooling off period to allow people who may not have that legal expertise or understand what they've actually signed to get it reviewed by someone who knows, get independent legal advice, and then decide whether they want to keep that agreement or not.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, the cooling off period is, if I go to a new property development or whatever the case is, I got enticed by the floor plans. I got those pictures of living a luxurious life on the park.
Yeah.
I got excited. I signed off the papers. I went home and I said, "Oh God, I think I made a mistake."
Yes.
The government of Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
they gives me from the time I signed it, 10 days to go back
And completely cancel that agreement.
and cancel.
Yes. You can back
And
out.
could I get penalized for that?
No.
Can I get my deposit back if I give one in?
That's correct.
Okay.
You will face no adverse consequences. The deposit will be returned to you without any deduction, and you have that 10-day cooling off period, and that's exactly what it's for. It's like get out of jail free card or whatever.
And your recommendation to people is that during the 10 days, of you signing off on the purchase agreement,
Mm-hmm.
that to come to a lawyer like yourself who can go over the details and may be able to find, from your experience, be able to find things that you can change to help benefit the buyer.
Absolutely, yes. There's a lot of instances. For example, the adjustments is the biggest thing, but sometimes the agreement will require you to assume their water heater, for example, or their furnace.
Okay.
You can get rid of that clause and say, no, I'd rather find my own furnace, or, for example, something like this. So yeah, there are a few things that can be done.
Amazing. Okay, so there you go. Now let's jump ship from. I know we've been talking about the residential part.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump ship into a bit more into the commercial and how is that different in purchasing in regards to legal contracts with compared to residential.
Right. So commercial properties is a different ballgame altogether. The main thing when it comes to commercial agreements is making sure that all of the searches have been done. So making sure that there's no work orders against that property, so that if you want to buy the property, is the fire department going to come and say, oh, your commercial building is not up to our code, you have to make these changes. That's happened before in the past. When it comes to insurance, as we were talking, the same requirements apply. In fact, they're a bit more stringent. Not only will the lenders require you to have a comprehensive insurance policy, but the landlords themselves require you to have tenants insurance to make sure that any damage that's done inside your unit is going to be paid by you through your insurance company, which obviously you can speak more to as well.
Right. So in the world of commercial insurance, which is what I specialize in, it is a practice I make sure that whenever we're dealing with a new client, that I make sure to go over their lease agreement, especially the part which goes over the indemnification and insurance clause on their lease agreements. Because if the client, for example, if your landlord's requiring you to have a $3 million liability limits or anything of commercial liability limits, and your policy is currently set up at $2 million, you could be in violation of the lease agreement.
Absolutely, yep. And I've seen landlords. Some of them don't care, but some of them are very vindictive, and they will send you a letter and notice saying to correct this, otherwise they'll hold you in breach of that agreement.
And what's the consequences of being in breach? Could they kick you out?
To kick you out, they'll have to go through a pretty long process, but they could impose fines.
They can impose fines.
Yeah, and they can impose penalties, and it's just going to cost you more money, which you shouldn't have to pay. As long as someone has advised you how your insurance should look like, you should be able to just take that to a broker like yourself and have that insurance policy.
Yep, absolutely. So guys, I hope you guys found this session useful. I sure did. I learned a lot as well. And I'm sure that if you're not in the field, or if you're in the market right now, trying to secure a place, make sure to reach out to Nabeel. And Nabeel, how can people reach out to you?
So I can be reached via email at nnaqvi, nnaqvi at zoomatis.com, the law firm, ZHUMATTIS.com. And we have a website as well, so check out zoomatis.com.
Yeah, and we'll put these details in the comments below as well. And guys, if you have any questions for me from the insurance perspective, let me know as well. You can reach out to me at 647-216-2866, as well as you can also check out my website, which is theinsurers.ca. And until next time, once again, take care. This is Aun Japanwala.
Before I wrap up, I just wanted to say I really appreciate your time. Would love it if you could subscribe and share this podcast, and also check us out at theinsurers.ca.